Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we get a first look at the first Skybound X Allegiance character that is going to be coming to RTS. This was a little announcement that came in. If you haven't checked that video out, it's very short. Go and check out that video, but we are going to be getting some Skybound X celebrations. That is the 10th anniversary of Skybound as characters and Allegiance. And the first one is going to be Negan 2000. Visually, well, I mean, I don't even have to say. It's very animated. We don't normally get this level of animation on the right-hand side. Left-hand side sometimes, but this is, even extra. He does seem to have, like, a bionic hands and maybe a bionic neck. Maybe it's just a bionic torso. Like, all of it's just... It reminds me of Colossus. You know, a lot of metal there. On the left-hand side, he's looking pretty evil. That is a very evil look on Negan's face just there, and we can see the Lucille up close and personal with all the lightning coming off of it. If we look at his stats as a limit broken character at level 640, he gets 14,154 attack, 14,154 defense, and 15,924 HP. He is considered a fast character, support character. He is a mythic character, of course, and like I said before, he is part of the new Skybound X Allegiance. So there are going to be 4 more characters to come in this Allegiance for sure, but Negan is going to be the one kicking things off. If we take a look at his adrenaline rush, it is called Dark Clouds. It's a 55 AP cost rush. Deal 300% damage to one enemy. 3 other teammates get camouflage for 2 turns. So I would say this is maybe a little bit of a support rush. It is very fast. That means on a defense team, he wouldn't have to use AP on attack. He'd be able to naturally get his AP required with a stat weapon if you wanted to go for defense and HP, if you wanted to beef this guy up. The 300% damage to one is just something, you know, to get things going. But it's the 3 other teammates getting camouflage for 2 turns it's pretty decent. It does mean things like splash damage and, you know, any AoE stuff isn't going to be able to do extra damage to these characters, which is very beneficial when it comes to a lot of these characters right now. Got multi-hits, and those things aren't going to work as well, basically. And it's basically going to make all the damage go to one character, or it's just going to stop. Like, you might have rushed a team that had camouflage on it, and if you've got a multi-hit character, it'll do 1 attack, maybe 2 attacks, and then just doosh, no more attacks, because it went to attack a camouflage character and it couldn't, and it just ends the rush. It's kind of messed up that way, but that's why it makes it powerful. Okay, so here we are, and Negan can rush, and you might see visually he has got the hoverboard even at this point, so he is going to carry that hoverboard that you saw on, you know, the little art first look into the actual gameplay as well, which is kind of interesting. Now, the rush isn't going to do huge amounts of damage. We are going to do a trait hit here, and it's going to come in. Dark Clouds. We aren't expecting it to be, you know, super damage dealing. He is more like, he is a support character, but you can see the other 3 characters right now have camouflage. So if any AoE hits were to come in, let's try and get her rush without taking her out. There we go. So what will happen is we'll have Aiko do her rush, and it would only hit a maximum of 2 people, because it can hit Negan. Well, actually, she has to target one of the camouflage characters for it to hit Negan, but I'm just going to hit defend. But you can see she targets one of the camouflage characters, and it hits Negan and 1 other, because it can hit the target, and it can hit only other people who don't have camouflage. And right there, it was only Negan who didn't have camouflage. So that's why it protected 1 other teammate. And this is good against characters who have the likes of rampage attacks, or splash damage, or collateral damage. It's really useful against those sort of characters. And of course, multi-hit characters, like I said before. But if we check out the upgrades on his rush, you can see at grade 2, it gets an extra 100% damage. So it goes from 200% to 300%. At grade 4, it gets 1 extra camouflage target. And then at limit broken, it gets another camouflage target. So if you only get the 1 Negan or 2, you'll only get up to 2 other teammates getting camouflage. But if you get the limit break, you'll be able to get 3 other teammates getting camouflage. Now, this obviously isn't that big a deal. I think it's probably a bigger deal the fact that you're getting stats boosted, because you'll be able to get him up to level 640 on base. That's going to be a bigger improvement, especially if you're using him on a defense team. But this is obviously going to be a nice little bonus if you get him up this far. And it's 100% free as well. There's no military supplies required, so it'll be just an instant upgrade to the rush. Now, Negan does have a signature move, of course, and it is called Thunderstruck, and it has got an initial cooldown of turn 2, cooldown of 3 turns, number of uses unlimited, deal a basic attack for 200% damage, 2 other teammates get camouflage for 2 turns, kind of similar to the Rush, and it is actually reasonably similar damage as well, except this can actually crit, so I think it could potentially do around the same amount of damage if he obviously doesn't have any multipliers, which you probably wouldn't if he's on a defense team. You wouldn't want to get him for any sort of crit multiplier, but if it does crit, it'll do around about the same as his Rush, but it will only be 2 other teammates and not the 3 other teammates that the Rush can potentially go to. It is in the initial cooldown that he would be required to get a natural Rush within the first 3 turns. If he didn't have AP on attack, it needs to be turn 1 or turn 2 for the initial cooldown, so that's good. But after that, he would be reliant on characters actually attacking him to get the natural cycle in. But I will say that him rushing or not rushing isn't that big a deal when it comes to how useful this guy is going to be on your team. However, in my opinion, his stats being high are going to be an important factor. Okay, so it's turn 2 and we'll just target Aiko again. Signature move will come in and you can see that it can crit, and we did around about the same amount of damage pretty much, right? I think it was around about the same amount of damage because she's just about on the same sort of HP, maybe a little bit less. But there is a bit of variable when it comes into crit in terms of, you know, how high that damage will go, so on and so forth. But it can be pretty nice. It can be as decent damage as his Rush, but I don't think he's mainly going to be a damage dealer. We know what he's going to mainly be, because we know what other parts of his kit. You've already seen it. You've already seen it. But you can see again the camouflage is going to come in, and this time it's going to be Bruce and Alice, and this is how it's going to work on a defense team. It will never go to Negan himself, but it will always go to the teammates. And like I said before, camo has its good uses against protecting, like against extra damage, basically, over the targeted damage. Now, when we look at the upgrades, you can see at grade 3, the starting cooldown will actually change from 3 to 2. This is important, but you can get this done just with having 1. However, you will need the grade 5 to get an extra camouflage target for your teammates, but I would say you would need to get the character to grade 5 to really be usable on a defense team. Now, 100 levels between 4 and 5 on the grades is a massive deal. Between 5 and Limit Break, it isn't as big a deal. It's only 40 levels, but even then, I would say you want to get as many levels as possible. But yeah, grade 5 is the way to go. And then obviously you'd get that extra camouflage target. Otherwise, you're only going to be able to camouflage one other teammate, and his stats are going to be significantly lower for sure. Now, Negan has some mythic abilities, and these are his passive skills. Of course, he is a support character, so he has Cunning, which honestly is probably one of the most powerful of the mythic abilities when it comes to the roles, because it has a flat reduction in likeliness to be able to control him. So, like, stun on attack is just not going to trigger very often when he's got a 30% reduction in the likeness of that happening currently, and how the weapons work. And the next one is called a Brewing Storm. When performing the Payback specialist skill, 40% chance this character recovers from defense down. So obviously we know he's a Payback character, we saw it before, and a lot of these are going to play into the fact that he's a Payback character. If he does do his Payback specialist skill, he'll no longer have defense down, and this can actually work in certain circumstances, like let's say someone's using a Lorry and they take out someone early on. He would get defense down in that situation, and then if he did have any payback actually happen, then at least he'd cleanse that for sure, or at least 40% chance to cleanse that. The next one is called Electricity. When performing the Payback specialist skill again, this character heals by 30% of their max HP. This is obviously very strong, because to trigger Payback, you would have to do 30% of the character's max HP in damage, so potentially they're just going to heal up what you've triggered, and then you're going to take that damage. It's going to be pretty nuts. Next up is Divine Storm. When performing the Payback specialist skill, 20% chance this character gets 100% Halo for 2 turns. And obviously that is really powerful if it procs. It is a low chance, and I think this kind of proc chance is pretty decent. You know, 20% chance at someone getting 100% Halo, which I believe it means their HP will be completely healed when they're obviously revived by this. 100% Halo means how much HP they'll have when they come back. And if they're taken out within those 2 turns, unless you wipe out their entire team, they'll just pop back up. And unlike the specialist skill Halo, I believe this can happen more than once per fight. Okay, so we're just going to run a couple of tests to just show you how this works. We've got a character like Laurie Grimes, who can do a signature move off of turn 1, and obviously do defense down if she takes someone out. She should be able to take out Cal here. And you can see these remaining characters now have defense down. If I trigger Payback on Negan, you can see that it's going to give me my payback back, and then he heals back up to 30% HP. He now has Halo for 2 turns. That also procced that 20% chance, so a lot just procced, and he cleansed the defense down here. Oh, this was actually the first time of doing this, guys. Everything procced the first time. Hallelujah. This rarely happens. And you can see the reflect came back in based on how much damage I did, and he's healed back up that 30% initial HP. Obviously, he could potentially heal up more on his turn because he's a fast character. He could have a fast healing weapon. Other fast characters on the team could have fast healing weapons. But this is how it works. You can see that I just obliterated 3 of my characters, and that's just basically how the payback's going to work. And we're going to get into the specialist skill in a second, but you can see what happened when that triggered. Lots of stuff happened, and it's only really powerful when his payback actually triggers. Otherwise, a lot of his passives don't do much for him. So if you can get around his payback, you can get around most of his kit. However, getting around payback is easier said than done. It is not very easy at all, especially if he's teamed up with the right characters. If he's teamed up with characters like Zachary on defense teams where you're trying to win quickly, you're going to have to rush, and you've got the chance of rushing Negan and absolutely obliterating your own team, unfortunately. If we look at the upgrades, at grade 1, he gets a Brewing Storm, which is the 20% chance that this character recovers from defense down. That's the first part of it. There is a second part for Brewing Storm. There's also Cunning 1 at grade 2. At grade 3, there's the Electricity, which is a 30% heal. At grade 4, there's the Brewing Storm Part 2. And at grade 5, there's the Divine Storm, which is going to be the 20% chance this character gets 100% Halo. And then lastly, at Limit Break, it'll be Cunning 2. So I'd say most of these are worth upgrading. But like I said, you can get around these. But if you want to win quickly, you've got a very high chance of proccing his Payback Specialist skill. And talking of the Payback Specialist skill, here it is. This is for people who aren't so familiar with it. It says, if this character were to take more than 30% of their max HP in a single rush, active, or signature skill, deal the same damage back to the attacker and up to 2 additional enemies. And that's what you saw before. But don't forget, my characters aren't fully upgraded. I don't put Lieutenant System on them on purpose because I know people have got a very wide range of Lieutenant System. Mine's very, very high on my base region, on my main region, and I know other people are like 200 levels behind that, or some people even like 400 levels behind that. So it's better to just show you what it is like on base and give you a rough idea. It's going to be different to everyone. It's also going to be very different based on how you gear this character. It's kind of like a Bide 2, where it's very dependent on how much HP you give to him, how much defense you give to him, how much damage he's going to take, how often that is likely to proc. It's kind of a balancing act with Payback and Bide 2, those sort of specialist skills. But if you get it right, it can be so devastating. And yeah, they haven't changed Payback at all since it was originally introduced, and it was extremely powerful. The only real way you could get through this was Normalize, and it's a heavy prediction that Normalize will probably be coming in the future because we have already got a character in the game that does have Normalize resistance within the Mythic era, and that is going to be Morgan, who has 40% of Normalize resistance on his passives. So don't be surprised if a Normalize does come out. Without a Normalized, Payback is absolutely ridiculous. And if you have multiple characters on the defense team, like if you have a Bide 2, a Shield, and a Payback on the same team, I mean, you've got to take your pick there. Who would you Normalize? Stop the Shield so you can actually attack. You know, if you do manage to get past the Shield with the rush, then you potentially would rush Negan and then blow yourself up. There's so many risks there, basically, and that's what the power in some of these specialist skills are. This is definitely a promo specialist skill, and by no surprise, we see it on Negan once again, who was the original Payback character. Now, Negan does have an attached weapon, of course, and it is Negan 2000's Vengeful Dual Lightning Lucille's. They are actually pretty decent off base, whereas most Mythic weapons aren't great. This has 30% defense straight away, so it actually has a decent stat. A huge bonus to AP when taking damage, and then random defense, randomly give another team member defense for the first 3 turns of each wave. The other 2 slots aren't great, but the first slot's okay. But you probably want to just swap a weapon straight into his hands. He doesn't need AP on attack, like I said, so it could be like defense, HP, impenetrable defense, fast healing. And that's pretty much the ideal weapon for a character that has 55 AP on a defense team. Kind of like Ezekiel, for fast Ezekiel, same sort of idea. Same AP, same sort of rush sequence, same sort of basic attack, signature move rush. It's going to be exactly the same, even without AP on attack. So very powerful on those teams. And like I said, with fast healing, he's just going to keep himself top. He's all about his HP. As long as his HP stays nice and high and he keeps proccing Payback, he's going to be extremely hard to deal with for sure. So that is Negan 2000. He is the first mythic character from the Skybound X Allegiance, the first of 5. Well, I guess the first of 6, because we would be getting a mythic trial character as well. More information will be coming out about which characters are going to be making it into RTS over the next couple of weeks and months, no doubt. Stay tuned. I hope they're all as vibrant as Negan is here with his visuals, because, I mean, I don't think I really can remember. Maybe Naya, she had like fire blades that were pretty cool, but this is pretty nuts. It's just electric Lucille's. Why not? Why not, guys? Why not? Do leave me your thoughts in the comments down below about Negan 2000 and the upcoming Skybound X Allegiance. That is going to be the end of my video. I want to thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.